And welcome to this gathering hosted by Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green. Whether you are here in person or online, we are so glad that you are joining us. My name is Jeffrey Strong, and I will be your service associate today. Please set your cell phones to silent so that we can be fully present with one another. We are a welcoming congregation, whoever you are, however you identify, wherever you come from, and whoever you love. You are welcome here. Our Sunday services are different each week so that we can honor and learn from our wide array of traditions and beliefs. Today, our speaker is Janine Grossmeyer, who will be speaking about earth into heaven or something like that. And our chalice lighting will be done by Amy Deputy. For Unitarian Universalists, the flaming chalice is a symbol of the light of learning and the love of our community. As our congregation's chalice is lit, we invite you to light your own chalice at home. Oh, sorry.
At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who lighted the flame within us. Albert Schweitzer. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who, age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. Adrian Rich.
Okay, so this morning, she did the opening reading. Please rise in body and spirit. We'll sing together page 1000 in the Tim hymnal, Morning Has Come. Our sharing moment today will be presented by Sharon Crawford, who I think is... Oh, I'm confused. Yeah. Oh.
That we can do. So, welcome everyone. And this is always such a happy day for me, where these people that you're going to be meeting and people are going to be talking back and forth with another, pledging our support for each other. Now, can you hear me? Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right, so this is always a happy day, and we're so glad that we are all here to welcome our newest members, and that we're letting you know how important these people are to us. So Jana Ray is filling in for Roxanne, who is ill today. Thank you, Jana Ray.
The act of becoming a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green is a public statement that you have found this to be your religious home and you embrace our covenant. A member accepts responsibility for continuing and sharing the faith journey that brought them to this place and for living in community with others whose journeys may be different. We now join in affirming our shared covenant. Members of the congregation, if you all would, stand as you're willing and able. We, the members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green, hereby promise to live in harmony and civility with awareness, tolerance, acceptance, and celebration of our diversity. We commit ourselves to enthusiastic support of our membership and the Unitarian Universalist tradition through our individual gifts and talents.
We now welcome into our community the following individuals. Wendy Kaler, and if as I call your name, if you'll come on up.
Members, you may have a seat.
Yes. Jennifer Walton and Kevin Webster. All right. I'm going to actually have each of you, if you will go down and light the candle off of the chalice.
As president-elect of this congregation, I greet you today on behalf of this gathered community, not only as new church members, but as new friends. We welcome you to our community and look forward to the future as we learn, grow, celebrate, serve, and support one another through the joys and sorrows of life. As members of this congregation, we all endeavor to grow spiritually, create community, and do the work of love and justice in the world. Will you join us in this work?
We will.
Will you speak the truth as you understand it with courage and love?
We will.
Will you endeavor to support this congregation financially and with your time, energy, and creativity?
We will.
Will you support the ministries of this congregation, knowing that it is up to all of us to ensure this community remains vibrant? Members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green, please rise in body or spirit, having heard the promises of this of these new members and knowing of their desire to join in covenant with this community, will you, the members of this congregation, welcome them joyfully, care for them in their joys and sorrows, and encourage them in their spiritual lives?
We will. So we have a little gift for each of you. We have the Eternal Cookbook that we have used for many years now. Potlucks, we do love potlucks. So this is a handy thing to have because there's some really good recipes in here. And then also Cindy gave you the Pocket Guide to Unitarian Universalism, which is a really good review. It gives you a lot of information about the congregation, well, really more about UUA. So we welcome you all. Thank you, and we look forward to many years of sharing joys, concerns, and lots of good times together.
So now we will do the children's recessional. Hymn 413, do we have kids? Yes. Oh, okay. It's hymn 413, Go Now in Peace. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere you may go. We will now have a few moments for meditation, reflection, and prayer. The singing bowl will lead us into silence. And after the silence, you're invited to join in the song Spirit of Life, hymn 123 in the Gray Hymnal. And the words will be on the screen. Oh. Have a wide array of beliefs, and the speakers at our Sunday services come from many traditions. Here to share their own thoughts today is Janine Grossmeyer. She's been a member of this congregation for 10 years. Before she moved to Kentucky, she was a member of the UU Fellowship of Southern Maryland. She's the author of A Lamp in Every Corner, our UU Storybook, which is a collection of 21 short stories about notable Unitarians and Universalists, 7 UU principles, and UU traditions. Her hobbies include gardening and landscape design, genealogy, and history, and all kinds of puzzles. Janine enjoys strong coffee with cream and single malt whiskey, neat. And lately, she's been listening to the music of Queen.
So, Jeff mentioned the title today's service, which I'm going to repeat. Making Earth a Heaven, Unitarian Universalism through the ages, through the years. And I'm going to try to use my laptop to help me through. I'll just turn around and look at that screen. That's easier. So imagine you are getting on an elevator, and you happen to be wearing some kind of UU swag. Maybe you got a t-shirt that says UU, you got a pin on, your bag says UU, and somebody else gets on the elevator with you, and they say, Unitarian Universalism, what is that? And then they press the button for their floor. You have 30 seconds, go. What are you going to say in 30 seconds? This is the elevator speech. You may have heard that phrase. How do you explain yourself really quick to somebody who just asked a question? And so there are many. Does anybody have an elevator speech that they've polished over the years? Want to share it with us? Nobody? Okay, cool. Sometimes our elevator speech is the thing that it matters, that has meant the most to us as a Unitarian Universalism. One of the ones I heard, well, let me back it up a tiny bit, was we're a religion where we work together to try to create heaven here on earth. It doesn't say anything about what perhaps we believe, it's more about what we do together as a group. But that, of course, raises the question, what is heaven like? A bunch of stairs going up into the clouds? A garden? Okay, I need a better resolution on that picture. Sorry about that. That's supposed to be a garden with plants and flowers and pretty stuff. Perhaps this is your vision of heaven, angels with harps. Perhaps Norman Rockwell's 4 freedoms come to mind, the freedom of speech, what would make life good for you here on earth. Freedom from want, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom from fear. John Lennon, in his song Imagine, it starts, imagine there's no heaven. But the lyrics then go on to describe what heaven would be like if it happened right here on earth. All the people living for today, I'm not going to try to sing it. No countries, nothing to kill or die for, no religions, living life in peace, no possessions, no need for greed or hunger, sharing all the world living as one. Sounds nice, sounds like heaven here on earth. So, translating the lyrics into perhaps more concrete positions might include trust, equality, freedom, hope, these kind of things we work for together as social justice. How do we make the world better for everybody? And that raises the question, what kind of religion is Unitarian Universalism? We kind of sometimes split into 2 camps. One is activism. This is a hands-on religion. All of this spirituality stuff is just this fad. It's self-indulgent fad even, yeah. And on the other side, the spirituality folk might say, this is a church. What's politics got to do with it? Why is all this social just stuff happening? When are we going to talk about the spiritual aspect of religion, of UUism? Happily, there's one way to kind of put those together. We could think of it, some of us like active spirituality, and some of us like spiritual activism. There's different ways of being a Unitarian Universalist. For a lot of us, the principles, the talk about making the world a better place, respect for everybody, having a good government, those, to make that happen, we have to be involved in our community and in the policies. And the word policies is very closely related to politics. So yes, it does start getting into some activism, some politics but that is putting our religion into action. It is continuing a very old tradition. In his essay Diaconia in the New Testament Era by Father Charles Buttigieg of Malta, he starts off by saying, "The Son of Man, Jesus, came not to be served, but to serve." To do things, not just to talk, but to do, to be of use, to be helpful. Diaconia, it literally translates from the Greek as waiting on tables. I did not know that. But it often gets interpreted as service or ministry. The word minister is Latin, it means servant. We don't think of it that way because of the position ministers have now, but it means servant. And the word deacon and deaconess comes from diaconia. Deacons are also servants of not just the church, but of people. And in the Bible, one of the commandments when Jesus tells people, go, sell what you have, give to the poor. So diaconia, the way Father Buttigieg describes it, is preaching the gospel of the risen Lord in charity instead of words, doing instead of just talking. He ends, also quotes St. John Chrysostom. Do we know how to pronounce that one? Okay, him. God said, I have made earth and heaven. I give you too creative power. Make earth into heaven. You can do this. And this apparently was a sermon preached by this bishop in the 4th century. So Unitarian Universalists, or in former years, Unitarians and Universalists before our two movements consolidated in 1963, somewhere in there, have had a long tradition of being active, putting their religion into practice. These are some of the movements that we have been involved in our history. Abolition of slavery was a big one. Now, let me back up a tiny bit. Not all of us have been active. Not all of our clergy and our official position has always been in favor of this all at the same time. There was some reluctance to get involved. There was some discussion on most of these. It took time for people to say, yes, that is our position. You may know that the Quakers are known as strong abolitionists. That took them a while. They didn't jump right into it. It took a while for all of them to come to that position and adopt it as part of their doctrine. So abolition of slavery, and that, of course, followed civil rights for everyone, including women, people of color, everybody. Voting rights, which is part of your civil rights. Animal rights, environmentalism, peace, representative government. All of these have been political movements that UUs have been involved in because they are a direct expression of our religious beliefs. That is spiritualism made active. And LGBTQ rights. We started affirming those in 1970. And it's been a slow process as we've gradually embraced different, transgender is fairly recent for us, but these kind of things, they take time to percolate, and as we become aware of the need to embrace more and more people and include everybody in the idea that everybody has inherent worth and dignity. If you're interested in knowing some of our famous, or notable, I should say, Unitarians and Universalists, I invite you to go to the Dictionary of Unitarian Universalism biography, which has the initials DUUB and is known as DUB. However, just to confuse you, its website is uudb.org. Yeah. And this here is its citation at the bottom. It is sponsored by the UU Studies Network, which has a lot of history and some really good information if you're curious about some of our history and where things have come from. I'm just going to mention 3 relatively notable UUs. There are lots more. Dorothea Dix, she's from New England. She was a teacher at the age of 14. She started on her own a school for poor children. She also taught girls who could afford it, and then she taught one for poor children on the other rest of the day. She was an author. She wrote widely. She wrote children's books and essays and things like that. And she was an advocate for the humane treatment of the enslaved, or the imprisoned and the insane. She visited some of these prisons, was horrified at the conditions, and she started lobbying. Now, this is in the 1840s, 1830s. She's a woman, she's single, and she's going around and demanding to see the prisons. And they weren't real excited about letting her in, but she insisted. She was a not to be denied kind of person. And she took a lot of notes and got a lot of evidence, and then she went to the Massachusetts legislature, and she petitioned and lobbied and talked and petitioned and lobbied and talked. And finally, she got the Massachusetts legislature to change the laws. Okay, one state down. Next, New York. She got them to fix things up. She said, let's keep going. She then went to New Jersey and Pennsylvania. This woman was not to be stopped or denied. She was moving. Once she had 4 states, she said, let's make this national, because she realized the United States was adding more states. She couldn't travel to all of them. Let's make this a national position. So she went to Congress in D.C. and started lobbying there. She did not quite get the bill passed that she wanted. The president who was going to pass it, it took a while, and he was out of office, and the next one didn't, and there was a war. But she did an awful lot of work to raise awareness and to get things changed. During the Civil War, she was in charge of the Army Nurse Corps. So she did a lot of work there, too. Henry Bergh, about the same, a little bit later, he was the founder of the American Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. And he had a big badge. You see him wearing the badge there. And he lived in New York City, and he saw somebody beating his cart horse, and Henry Bergh walked up to him with his badge and said, that's against the law, and basically hauled the guy off to the jail, to the cops, and said, please arrest this man, after he got the laws passed. So he was instrumental in getting that society started. There was a girl who was being abused, and there were no laws against cruelty to children. And so he finally got her away from the abusive step-parent and said he wanted to adopt her as a dog because there were laws against beating the dogs, but not against beating the girl. Well, that got some press, as you might imagine, and started a society for prevention of cruelty to children. So these are, as he said, a matter purely of conscience. It has no perplexing side issues. It is a moral question in all its aspects. It is a religious question. And he took his religious convictions that animals and children should not be treated cruelly and turned it into activism, got the laws changed, and made our society better for all our children and all our animals. The last lady I want to mention is Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. She was born free in Maryland and moved up north. This is before the Civil War. She was an essayist, a novelist, a poet. She lectured widely, and one of the founders of the National Association of Colored Women, as it was known at the time. She advocated for temperance, no drinking, because she knew the dangers of the alcoholism and how destructive that was to the family. Women's rights and anti-lynching. Right after the Civil War was over, they had a convention of the women, 1866, National Women's Rights Convention. And everybody had been talking. She was one of the few women of color there, and she got up and said, you white women speak here of rights, I speak of wrongs. Because there was some, the women's movement was upset because black men had been given the vote, but not white women. And so there was some split along color lines, and it got very complicated, and the groups got mad at each other and split up, and it was a mess. But Frances Ellen Watkins Harper continued to work for suffrage for people of all genders and colors, and she died in 1911, so not quite in time to get to vote herself, but she did a lot to make it happen for everybody. So those are just 3 of our notable UUs. There are many, many more, and I invite you to go to the duub@uudb.org and look up some of them and see what they've been up to. And the work continues for us here today. The people I mentioned were mostly from the 1800s, but many people in the 1900s and even into the 2000s have been working and are working to make the world better. Not all of us are famous, not all of us found organizations. Some of us continue the work other people started, but that's important too. None of those people did it all by themselves. They had help. They're just sort of the ones who started it and got their names on it. If you go to the UUA.org, our congregation is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association, which is national. And you click on their link for just justice and inclusion, you see some options. And these are just some of the areas where we have focused our spiritual beliefs into activism. And they kind of just divide up because some people are more interested in one area than another, or it's the topic that affects them. Side with Love. This is our interfaith public advocacy that says everybody has inherent worth and dignity. It covers a lot of different territory. And remember this little picture here with all the different hands and the different topics that they covered. We may think of LGBTQ justice, dignity for everyone. Racial justice, we're looking for equality and freedom. Immigrant justice, people coming here looking for hope and peace. They are people too. They may not be citizens, but they're people, and we need to treat all people with dignity. Reproductive justice, do we trust each other to make decisions that are best for us and our families? You the vote. A lot of us in this congregation have been involved with this, helping people get access to the voting ballots. Recently in Kentucky, people who have been convicted of a felony and they have served their sentence, done their time, they have been given back the right to vote. Not a lot of them knew that. And so several of us here made a lot of phone calls trying to reach out to those people and letting them know that they were enfranchised again and they could vote and be participating members in our democracy. Economic justice and climate environmental justice. All of these intertwine in some ways. You know, it's hard to be economically prosperous if you have climate and environmental issues happening, but they do sort of split. So if you're interested in putting your faith into action and you go to uua.org, these are some of your options to get involved. Here in Kentucky, you may have heard the phrase Kujan. I didn't know what that meant the first couple times I heard it, and I asked, and it's Kentucky Unitarian Universalist Justice Action Network, Kujan. And so it's focusing on issues close to home. And several of, who's active in that? You want to put your hands up? We've got a bunch of active, okay. So if you're interested in learning more about Kujan, I invite you to talk to those ladies there. Now, all of this work, and it is work, may feel like poor Sisyphus here trying to push that rock up the hill. And sometimes you don't get the rock very far. Sometimes the rock kind of rolls back on you. Sometimes it feels like nothing's happening, nothing's been changing. But again, you're not alone. Other people are working on this, other congregations are working on this, other religions are working on this. These are important work we do to make the world a better place for everybody. What is the work? This reminds me of a story. This is set back in medieval times. And a gentleman came in and there's a quarry. And he goes up to one of the stonemasons. He says, "What are you doing?" And the stonemason says, I'm cutting this block here, trying to make it square. And he goes to another stonemason and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Oh, my job is to chip off any protruding edges. That's my job." And he goes to another stonemason and he says, "What are you doing?" And the stonemason set down his tools. He stood up, he looked out from the dust and the noise of the core, and he looked across the valley to where there was a building. And he said, "I am building a cathedral." So the work we do may seem small. We may be filling out postcards. We may make phone calls. But if we stand up, look around, and look at the big picture, we are building something better for everybody. So I invite you to remember that when you're feeling like you're down in the dust and just slugging away. There's a bigger picture out there. There's a Latin motto, laborare est orare, to work is to pray. Just the act of working is a form of prayer. A lot of times we envision prayer, someone kneeling with their hands like this, or maybe sitting cross-legged and going, "Om." And those are quiet, meditative forms of prayer, but work can also be a form of prayer. Or as you may have heard the phrase, deeds, not creeds. More work, less talk. The sign on our roadside sign has a quote from Reverend William Ellery Channing. May your life preach more loudly than your lips. He is one of the first Unitarian ministers in our movement. In fact, the room we're sitting in right now is named after him. This is the William Ellery Channing Sanctuary. And so he says, don't just talk the talk, walk the walk, do the work. Father Buttigieg ended his essay with this quote, above all, the church of the diaconia is the church in motion towards heaven, its homeland forever. I'm reminded that motion is relative. Are we going there? Is that coming here? Are we going towards heaven, or are we bringing heaven to us? Can we do both at the same time and truly make this a heaven on earth? Thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Janine. That was great. I learned a lot. Let's see. And now we'll do the offertory. This congregation and the work we do is supported by the voluntary generosity of all who contribute. The offering is a sacrament of the free church. You may place your donations in the plate as it comes to you or on your way out. Use the QR codes on the screen, or donate via our website or mail checks directly to our office. As we enjoy the music, the offertory will be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values. We thank you for these gifts. May we use them wisely in service of our congregation and our community. Announcements. There will be a Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday, November 23rd from 1 to 3. Please join us for the annual UUCBG Thanksgiving Potluck Luncheon. It'll be from 1 o'clock to 3 in the Fellowship Hall. We all are welcome. Bring family and friends. A suggested donation of $5 per person or $7 for family would be welcomed. It's free for children under 12. If you can't, you're welcome to. UUB UUCBG will provide the Thanksgiving turkey. We ask you to plan to bring a dish to share. We are hoping for a large group. And there's a sign-up sheet on the table right on the other side of that wall.
Also in the newsletter that you got this week, there is an online form that you can sign up with as well. So just check for that in your newsletter. Thank you.
And there's a discussion of the Barbie movie via Zoom at 7 p.m. this Tuesday, November 14th, and the Zoom address and the password are on the bulletin board out there if you want to do that. Earth Care Interfaith Dialogue on Religion, Science, and Sustainability is on Thursday, November 16th from 5:30 to 9 at Jody Richards Hall at WKU. And next Sunday, the speaker will be Reverend Beth Graham. The title of her message is Singing It Back. After the service, you're all invited to come to the fellowship hall next door for refreshments and conversation. And feel free to join in discussion about today's service at the Reflection Roundtable located outside of the kitchen. If you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or about joining this congregation, please speak with a member of our membership team or our board president, Roxanne Spencer, who's not here today, but you all saw the membership team here. And you can also email her at president@uubgky.org. As always, you can find more community news by reading the monthly email newsletter and the weekly email updates, and there's a lot of stuff on the bulletin board. Our website and our Facebook page and Facebook groups are always available online. And our last hymn is page 1028 in the teal thing, and it's Fire of Commitment.
Say
And this morning's final reading will be given by Amy, Deputy.
I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. Edward Everett Hale.
Thank you. We now bid farewell to those who have joined us online. We hope you've found this service meaningful, and we invite you to join us again either in person or online. Be well and go in peace. If you're here for the